we had studied about oxidation states, right? I told you how to actually figure out oxidation states. That in oxidation states, what you just look at is which one is the more electronegative element, and you're going to assume that the electrons, although partially gained by oxygen, you're going to assume that you're going to treat it as if it has gained those electrons, and you're going to call it -2. That's an oxidation state. So
Yeah.
in redox, you're looking for substances that are losing electrons or gaining electrons, right? Now,
Yeah.
now I told you about this table about oxidation states. The table was, again, let me highlight the table. The table was that you're going to have uh, any neutral element is going to have an oxidation state of zero, whereas in compounds, group one is going to have a charge of +1, 2 is +2, 3 is +3. Oxygen is usually -2 most of the time, except a few exceptions. H is mostly +1, and it also has a few exceptions. And fluorine is always -1. So, based on this, you were able to figure out oxidation states of different elements. And these are some questions that I gave you. So, can you try and figure out what the oxidation state? Did you try and solve these?
Yeah, I did. Um,
What's the first one?
um,
Like, what's the underlying element?
yeah, so you have the nitrogen. So let me just find it quickly. So it's a hydrogen is a +1,
Yeah.
and there's four hydrogens. So the charge in the hydrogens is it like plus +4 because it's four hydrogens,
Yeah.
and then for the nitrogen it's nitrogen is
Like, nitrogen isn't given in the table.
yeah,
That's an unknown. That's X. Hydrogen is +4, right?
yeah,
So the total charge on the whole thing is what? +1.
yeah.
So what is X?
It was -3.
Okay, so N over here is -3.
Yeah.
So what about this one? The S.
Um. So oxygen is -2. So you do -2 times 3, which is like -6.
Okay, and sulfur is
Then
unknown.
yeah, and then I
They should
think
add up to be equal to -2, right?
yeah. So it's what the charge is for 4.
Okay, so it's going to be 4. So sulfur over here is going to be +4.
Yeah.
And what about N2O4?
So oxygen is -2 times 4. That's -8. So
And there
what
are two,
then?
two, two nitrogens, right?
Yeah, two nitrogens. So it's -2x -8.
And the total charge is 0, right?
Yeah. So what is 2x? Like one nitrogen is 4. No, -4.
+4.
Oh, +4, +4. Yeah.
Okay, so that's +4, right? And so on.
Yeah.
So you can figure out all the other substances. I said, why is oxidation states important? Because you're going to try and figure out the change in oxidation states. Basically, you want to figure out who's gaining electrons, who's losing electrons, right? So
Yeah.
so what happens to the oxidation state when electrons are gained? Uh, if something is gaining electrons, would it become more positive or would it become more negative?
More negative, right?
Yeah. So that means the oxidation state would decrease. I mean, negative is, I mean, move towards the negative side, right? Uh,
Yeah.
so oxidation state decreases. That is oxidation. Whenever something, that is reduction, sorry. Whenever something gains electrons, whenever something gets reduced, okay, let me write, reduced. So whenever reduction happens, oxidation state decreases. For example, over here, you have aluminium plus three
Yeah.
changing into aluminium, right?
Yeah.
So it's changing into aluminium. Is it gaining electrons or losing electrons?
Losing.
How did you figure that out? I mean, look at the charge. What's the charge over here? It's plus three, right?
Yeah. So it's what, losing 3 electrons.
Nee, what's the charge over here?
Oh, so it's
Zero.
what, +2?
Nee, with zero, there is no charge, right?
Oh, okay.
So aluminium plus three is changing into. So what is happening to the charge? Is it decreasing or is it increasing?
Decreasing.
And what did we just study that if it decreases, that
Oh, so it's
means,
increasing. Okay.
I mean, that means it's gaining electrons, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So whenever you see charge decreasing, that's a gain of electrons. So for example, over here, uh, what's happening here? Like oxygen is changing into, let's say O minus two, right?
Yeah.
So what's happening? Is it gaining electrons, losing electrons?
Um. Well, it's losing. Gaining electrons. I mean.
Okay, why? Because the charge is decreasing, right? Like
Yeah.
like over here it's zero, and over here it's minus two. So that means it's gaining exactly how many electrons? It's gaining two electrons, right?
Yeah.
So it gains two electrons. So remember this. What's happening here? Uh, okay, let's discuss that later. I mean, we're going to practice this. Let me write the other thing as well. So when something is getting oxidized,
Yeah.
which means that it loses electrons, there's a loss of electrons. The oxidation state increases. You become more positive, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm going to mix things up. Now focus on the oxidation state. Like over here, it's pretty obvious that if it's turning into O minus two, that means it's gaining electrons, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but a lot of times things are not that obvious. You have to just focus on this. Focus on this thing. Oxygen
Yeah.
state increasing and oxidation state decreasing, right? So try and figure this out. Can you tell me what's, let's say Cl plus 7 is changing into Cl minus 2, right?
Yeah.
What just happened? Did it gain electrons or did it lose electrons?
Gained electrons.
How many exactly?
5.
No. Like, how do you go from plus 7 to minus 2? Focus on the number line. Like, plus 7 to minus
Oh.
2.
So it's what, they gain like 9 electrons then. I thought
Okay,
it said -2.
they're getting 9 electrons, right?
Yeah.
What's happening here? O minus 2 changing into O minus 1.
Yeah. Gained just 1 electron.
Did it gain or did it lose?
Lose an electron.
Why? Because the oxidation state is increasing or decreasing?
Increasing.
The it is increasing. So when oxidation state increases, that means you're losing electrons.
Yeah.
So that lost one electron, right? Uh, on top, the oxidation state was decreasing, right?
Yeah.
So decrease means reduction. It means it gained electrons, gained 9 electrons. So what about this one? Let's say Na was +7, and now Na is +9. What happened here?
It gained 2 electrons,
What happened to the oxidation state?
increases by 2.
So when it increased, it means it lost 2 electrons.
Yeah,
ठीक है? Focus on that. If oxidation state increases, that means it's a loss of electrons. If it decreases, it means a gain of electrons.
yeah,
ठीक है? So make sure don't. I mean, this thing. I mean, this is very obvious. Like you're familiar with this. Oxygen gaining 2 electrons to form -2. That's very obvious. Uh, this thing is not that obvious. It's Na+1 turning into Na+9. This could be confusing. So just focus on that. If oxidation state is increasing, if it's becoming more positive, then that means it's losing electrons. -2 to -1, it's becoming more positive. That means it lost electrons. Uh, Vice versa, if oxidation state decreases, it becomes more negative. That means it's gaining electrons. Okay, is this clear?
yeah, yeah. That's fine.
Acha, so why do we need this? The reason we need this is because in a redox reaction, oxidation states would be changing. They would be gaining electrons, and they would be things would be losing electrons, right? For example, I have a reaction in which there is, let's say, sodium, and sodium
Yeah,
reacts with Al3 plus. But okay, let's say let's take another reaction. I have uh, let's say I have copper 2 plus, and it reacts with Fe2 plus, and as a result, copper is formed and Fe3 plus is formed. Okay, just a reaction. Maybe this reaction never happens, but let's assume this is happening.
yeah.
Now, can you tell me who gained electrons, who lost electrons?
Um.
Like
So wait.
what's happening to Fe?
So copper lost an electron, and what copper gained 2.
The copper, what happened to copper?
Copper lost 2 electrons, and Fe gained 1.
What's happening to the oxidation state of copper? It's
Increases by 2.
what's the oxidation state over here? It's 0, right?
Yeah. So it's decreasing. So it gained 2 electrons.
Okay. Just remember, okay, if I mean use the word reduced instead of using the word decreases. Let's start using the word reduced. Okay,
Okay.
that means reduction is happening. It's gaining 2 electrons, right?
Yeah.
So whenever you see and 2 electrons exactly. So whenever you see the charge reducing, that's reduction. That's gain of electrons. So and what's happening to Fe2 plus? What's happening to its oxidation state is increasing, right?
Yeah.
So that means it lost electrons. It exactly lost 1 electron, right?
Yeah.
And it got oxidized. Now the thing is that I mean that's the first thing. Okay, let's try and figure out who's getting reduced, who's getting oxidized. So I'm just going to do a worksheet. Maybe it's over here. 1 second. And maybe this one, yeah. Okay, so Can you try and figure out uh, forget the first one. So can you try and figure out, like, hopefully you can see them clearly. Look at the first reaction, the one that's given over here.
Yeah.
Can you tell me? I'm going to just rub off uh, the balancing part. Here's that's gone. I said now the thing is, can you tell me who's getting oxidized, who's getting reduced in this equation?
Um.
Sorry.
So.
Like you would have to find the oxidation states. Find the oxidation state of Cr first.
Um. Is it 12?
Yeah, but that's 2 Cr. 2 Crs are 12, right?
Oh, so it's 6. 6.
Because the Cr is 6 plus 6, right?
Yeah.
Now, let me sort of. Okay, Cr is plus 6, right? Uh, what is N over here? Like H is plus 1, O is minus 2. What is N?
Um. Is it 2?
It's coming out to be 2. It's H is plus 1, right?
Yeah.
That's it. Sorry, just 1 second. Okay, so H is plus 1, and N is the unknown. That's X. So we're gonna call it X. And O is minus 2 times 2, right?
Yeah.
And the whole thing is going to be equal to 0.
Oh.
So what is X?
Minus 3?
Okay, so X is plus 3. It's
Oh, plus 3.
okay, so it's going to be plus 3. I said, what about H over here? That's already plus 1, so it's already given. So forget that. Cr over here is 3 plus. That's already written over here. What is N in NO3 minus 1? Yeah, I mean O is minus 2. What is N?
Um. Is it 4?
It's NO3 minus 1, so that N is X. O is minus 2 times 3, right?
Yeah.
And the total charge is minus 1.
Oh, okay. So it's what? 5 then. 5.
N over here is plus 5. And H is plus 1 and O is minus 2. Now tell me which element is getting reduced
Um,
in the reaction. I mean, which one is gaining electrons? If the charge is reduced, that's reduction.
so
Whose,
um,
whose charge is
CR is getting reduced, and NO is getting oxidized.
N basically.
Yeah.
N is going from plus 3 to plus 5, right? Now, can you try and do the same for the second equation? Like O and H are already known. You just have to figure out I first, then N over here, uh, then N over here.
Yeah. Um.
IO3 minus 1. Figure that out first.
For the first one, is it 2?
IO3 minus 1?
Yeah, 2IO3. Yeah.
What do you mean by 2?
Like
Focus on
like
I mean, ignore the 2. That's just for balancing.
yeah. Yeah, but that's what I got for like one oxidation.
For iodine,
Yeah.
1 second, let me. So why is it coming out to be 2? It's I is the unknown, that's X, right?
Yeah.
And there are 3 oxygens, so that's minus 2 times 3, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and they should add up to be equal to minus 1. So what do you get?
So I got like what was it? 5 minus 6,
Why is
and
where you
then
get?
divided by. I got for 2 of them I got 5, but I think I have to divide it by 2, so I got like 2.5. But I don't know if you can have a decimal as one, so
It
I
should
just
be
said
fine.
2.
I mean, forget the 2. It's not for 2. I mean, there is no 2.
Oh, okay.
Like it's the molecule is IO3 minus 1. I mean, the 2 is for balancing. It's ignore the 2. The molecule is IO3 minus 1.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's if the 2 is in the formula, then you make sure that the molecule has 2 iodines. It doesn't have 2 iodines. It only has 1 iodine. It has 1 iodine and it has 3 oxygens. Okay, so
Yeah.
there is no 2 in the formula. Over here, there is a 2 in the formula. So try the second one.
Okay.
Like N2O. What's N2O?
So oxygen is minus 2, and then that's 2x. is it is like X for that one 1? Like N2 is like 2, but
So n is the unknown, right? So
yeah.
it's gonna be x, but there are two n's, right? So it's gonna be 2x.
Yeah.
And O is minus 2, and it should be equal to 0.
Yeah, that's what I did.
So x comes out to be
2, like, but it is just 1.
okay. So it's going to be, sorry, this. So it's going to be 1, right? I mean, one of the n's
Yeah.
is going to be plus 1, right? What's iodine over here?
Um.
Remember the first statement that was, okay, if you have a neutral element with no charge, it's 0.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean it doesn't have a charge, that's 0. What about NO?
Um. So is that 2 as well?
Okay, that's plus 2. So now tell me which one got oxidized, which one got reduced.
So the um the iodine got oxidized,
See what's
and
happening?
the
What's happening to iodine charge? It's plus 5, now it's 0.
0. So it's so it got reduced,
Yeah.
and the nitrogen, the N, got oxidized.
Okay, so the N got oxidized, that's fine. Uh, try doing this one. Ignore these coefficients. Mn over here.
Okay. So is the first one Mn, is it 7?
Okay, that's plus 7. What's T over here?
Um I don't know. I'm not sure.
I mean, it's
I
just
don't.
it's a neutral element with no charge.
Okay.
So 0. O is minus 2, A is plus 1. That's what's Mn over here?
Um. Is it 4 over there?
It's going to be 4. And what about this one? TE over here.
Um, is it 4?
It is 4, yes. So who's getting oxidized? Who's getting reduced?
So Mn is being reduced,
Okay.
and Te is being oxidized.
Yeah. Uh, this last one. Try and do this one.
हो गया खत्म लेसन
So for Cl, is it 7?
For 1 second. It is +7.
Um, I'm not sure what it is for iodine.
I mean, it is -1. The charge is already given.
Oh, okay, I didn't see it. And
It's here is -1 over here. I mean, there's a -1 charge over here. What about this one? Iodine in over here.
is it 5?
That one is going to be 5, yes. I said now we're going to move to another thing, which is we're going to come back to these equations later. What we're going to move towards is I'm going to just write random. I'm going to write equations over here. Now, one thing is, and one very important point is, let's write it over here. One very important point is that when you have a redox reaction, the number of electrons gained and lost, they must be equal. Okay, so in any redox reaction, number of electrons lost, they
Yeah.
should equal the number of electrons gained. Like if one substance is losing 5 electrons, the other substance has to gain those 5 electrons. Uh, because if it's not, I mean that has to happen. Because otherwise, where would the extra electrons go? Okay, so if one substance is losing electrons, the other substance has to gain the same number of electrons. Now, all redox equations they need to be balanced. The electrons lost and the electrons gained they have to be balanced. So, for example, you have this reaction. You have a reaction, sodium reacts with Al3 plus, and they react and they produce Na plus 1 and aluminium metal, right? So that's your reaction.
Yeah.
Who's getting reduced? Like Na has no charge over here. It's,
Yeah. So
I mean, the charges are already given. You don't have to find the charges.
yeah. I think what the Na is, the Na is getting reduced, and the
It is the charge getting reduced.
yeah, yeah, because it goes from like 0 to a +1.
It's not getting reduced. It's increasing.
Oh, so oxidizing.
Okay, so it's getting oxidized, right? So that means it lost one electron. And exactly one electron, right? It goes from and what's happening to aluminium?
Um, well, aluminium is getting reduced because it's like we're
Its charge is
losing three, gaining three.
its charge is decreasing, right? So, so that means it's gaining three electrons. Now, what's the problem here? The number of electrons that are being gained and the number of electrons that are being lost, they're not equal, right? Because
Yeah,
if sodium is only losing one electron, how can aluminum gain three electrons? I mean, that's not possible. So the number of electrons lost and gained, they have to be equal. So who do you multiply? I mean, whose quantity should you increase? How can you make the number of electrons equal? What should I multiply sodium with? Like, how many sodiums do I need?
um, is it is it just one, right? Because it only is only gaining by like one.
But aluminium needs three electrons, right?
Yeah,
The problem is sodium is only losing one electron. Like, aluminium gains three electrons, right? Sodium is losing just one electron. So
yeah.
how can you make this three electrons? If I multiply this
But
by
times it. Oh yeah, times it by three.
so if I have three sodiums, the number of electrons lost are three, right?
Yeah,
So now the number of electrons gained and the number of electrons being lost, they're now equal, right? Is this clear?
yeah.
So let's try and do another one. Let's say there's tin reacting with Cl, and tin becomes 4 plus,
Yeah.
and Cl becomes minus 1, right? So how many electrons has tin lost?
Um, like four.
And did it lose them or did it gain them?
What is gaining?
0 to plus 4, what's happening to the oxidation state? Is it increasing or decreasing?
It's losing like four electrons.
Yeah. So it's losing 4 electrons, right?
Yeah.
What's happening to Cl?
It's gaining an electron.
And it gains 1 electron. So the number of electrons gained and lost, they must be equal. Like if this is losing 4 electrons, Cl has to gain 4 electrons, right? How many
Yeah.
Cls should I have?
Just one, and you need 14.
If I have 4 tins, the number of electrons lost would be 16 now.
Oh, okay. So is it just one tin then?
So how can I make Cl gain 4 electrons? If I have how many Cls do I need?
Um, four.
Okay, I'm gonna multiply Cl by 4 so that the number of electrons gain and loss they become equal. So because Cl is gaining just one electron, so if I have 4 Cls, the number of electrons gained would also be 4, right?
Yeah.
I said let's do another one. This is the reaction that's happening. Who's getting reduced?
Um, so aluminium lost 3 electrons, so aluminium's getting reduced, and copper's
Uh,
getting oxidized.
Lost electrons. So
It's getting reduced.
I mean, if you lose electrons, it's getting oxidized.
Yeah,
And copper is getting reduced. Its charge is reducing by how much? By two, right? So it gains two electrons.
yeah,
Now the thing is that the number of electrons lost and gained, they're not equal, right?
yeah.
So what number should I multiply both with so that they become equal?
So you you times the aluminium by 2 and the copper by 3.
So there should be two aluminiums, and if you have two aluminiums, the number of electrons lost would be six, right?
Yeah.
And if you have
Um.
three coppers, so the number of electrons gained would also become six, right?
Yeah.
So so this is one very important point. The number of electrons gained and lost they have to be made equal. So you multiply both sides by a certain number. So you have to think of that number, and you have to make them equal. Aman, is this clear?
Yeah.
So let's I mean these ones, right? I'm going to send these ones.
Okay.
You will do the same thing. Make sure that they are balanced at the end of the day.
Okay.
One second, sending it on WhatsApp. चलिए ठीक है. I've sent the questions on WhatsApp. ठीक है.
Yeah.
Okay then. Take care, Amal.
Okay. Bye.